A very warm welcome to the session today, which a lot of us have been looking forward to sort of close the week. And today we'll have a very interesting discussion looking at the Africa Carbon Market Alliances and specifically on the topic advancing readiness through regional approaches. It's a great pleasure to host you here at the GIZ campus. And please feel free, grab some water, tea at the back. Feel welcome here. My name is Rita Rukundo, and I work with the Eastern Africa component of the Global Carbon Markets Project, a project that is jointly, that is implemented by GIZ and supported by the German Ministry for Environment and Climate Action. And we operate in several regions, including Eastern Africa, Caribbean, and Southeast Asia. So really good I have the pleasure of moderating today's session, and I'll do this jointly with my colleague Fanta, who will come in for another session later, as I'll introduce in a bit. So the session today brings a very unique opportunity where we have three alliances or alliance coordinators on the same stage, several representatives from the countries that form part of the alliances, the three alliances, and also partners, colleagues in the room that will also join exchange. So we'll have a discussion at the end of the session to explore how regional cooperation as an important tool is an important tool and how it can strengthen market development across the African continent, but also interrelations with international exchanges and building momentum towards implementation of the markets. Before we get into the substantive discussion, I'm also very pleased to have in the room Rachel Pecker, who is an advisor to the BMUKN, or German Ministry for Environment and Climate Action, and she'll just join me here on the stage to make some opening remarks, just to set the scene as we get into a deeper discussion on regional readiness. So Rachel, I'll invite you now for the speech. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here. We know that it has been a little bit challenging with negotiations happening at the same time today as well, so we hope that the room will fill up a little bit over time. It's a great pleasure for me to also welcome you on behalf of the ministry, the BMUKN. I'm not going to say the whole name. It's a little bit of a challenge always. To this event of African Carbon Market Alliances, advancing the readiness through regional approaches. And as you might know, Germany has been a huge supporter of the African alliances from the beginning. I'll say a little bit more about that in a little bit. We all know that carbon markets are really entering a little bit of a new phase here. We do have Article 6.4 now, which really, the PACM, which really gives us a quality benchmark, we believe as well. And we are entering now the implementation phase. I'm also very happy to see that African nations are really getting ready for this implementation. And I believe that, and from what I've seen from the conferences I've been to, from the talks that I've been having with all the alliance coordinators, with the countries' representatives, African nations are really getting ready and are much more prepared for the implementation and bringing projects and really bringing quality to the market than during CDM times. So we're really in a different stage here. But at the same time, Article 6 also brings some practical questions and challenges with it that have to be answered, and it's not an easy task. So some of those questions include how can we really bring in the institutional responsibilities? How can we organize them? How can we do the authorization? Make sure that at the same time we don't have the risk of overselling. What kind of MRV systems do we need? How do we make a registry system? And also, how do we include the private sector? How do we get all of these different stakeholders together? While at the same time really ensuring the transparency of the market, the environmental integrity, the alignment with the national climate goals, but also how do we get the development goals through carbon markets further as well. So all these questions are complex, and I really believe that the African alliances are really helping countries to raise these questions and then to discuss them and to also get answers for themselves. Because there are similar questions and a lot of countries are in similar stages with similar questions, but at the same time, we do have some frontrunners and countries can learn from each other, can learn from the experiences that others have made. So the alliances have shown to be useful platforms for peer learning, for exchanging practical experiences, for coordinating the capacity building as well. And I think we'll hear a little bit about the challenges that come with that as well later today. But also for really jointly looking into development of practical tools and approaches. So by now, and I'm really happy to see this, we not only have 1 or 2, but 3 alliances. The first one, the West African Alliance, is really celebrating this year, also its 10th anniversary. So yeah, maybe. Then we have the East African Alliance, which is also has a journey behind it with already 7 years of experience. And then our newest comer, the Southern African Alliance, which has just established this year. So big applause for them as well. So yeah, I think we can learn a lot from this diversity. We can learn a lot from each other within the alliances, but also we can learn a lot from the alliances can learn from each other. So I think there's a lot of potential here. So I think I've covered a little bit why Germany is supporting this already. Both the experiences learned, the lessons learned. I really think that the alliances are doing a great job here. So I really hope that you enjoy the discussions today that will really help showcase what the regional approaches, the cooperation can do and how they support the countries. So please also ask questions, I would say, if you have any, to the coordinators of the alliances. They're all here today, so you can ask questions, but also to the national focal points, or really from the countries who can tell you from their perspective what the alliances have brought to the table. And yeah, I want to thank you all for coming, also the national focal points, the countries, and I really wish you a productive and open discussion today. And I'm also looking forward to it, and thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the event today.
Thank you so much, Rachel. When Rachel speaks about the alliances, she's very passionate, so we like to listen to her when she speaks about it. Thank you so much, Rachel, and also for being a great support to the work of the alliances. So as we get into the discussion, we've organized the session in 3 parts. The first part, we'll look at, as Rachel mentioned earlier, hearing from the alliance coordinators. So I'll invite them in a moment just to hear from them, the experiences, different stages of growth, where they are, and importantly, their priorities. In the second part, we'll have a rather exciting part as well. Going a bit deeper into the practical insights, including selected tools and approaches and products that the alliances have put in place. And this is just a little bit piece of the puzzle. So there's a lot more, but just pulling out a bit of the work that they're doing to just showcase how this works in practice. The third part is where we'll have everybody involved in the discussion. Specifically, we'll be very pleased to hear from some of the alliance focal points. So all the alliances form about 32 countries in total that are within the 3 alliances, but we'll only have a few of them present their perspectives and understanding of the alliances. And important to note that these countries and the focal points that will be here today form the very foundation and driving force behind the alliances. So the coordinators really just do the role of coordination, but the actual alliances are built by the countries as a great foundation. And at the end, we'll have a session where we'll have a brief recap, reflections from Dr. Alec Mubundika, who is in the room as well. And Alec is the acting director for the National Institute for Scientific and Industrial Research in Lusaka. He's also a member of the Article 6 supervisory body, but also importantly, a member of the Southern Africa Land. So he wears many hats. At the end of it, we'll be very happy. I know it will be quite engaging. There'll probably be quite a bit of hungry people in the room. So we're inviting you to lunch after the session. Please do not leave without having lunch at the cafeteria right across here. So we'll have also our colleagues here that can direct you to the place. So now we'll get into the first part of the session. And for that, I'll take my seat and invite the Alliance coordinators. In Africa, we often have a lot of respect for our elders. So allow me to start with the oldest alliance and invite the coordinator for the Western Africa Alliance, Usman Falsa. Thank you for being here and happy to see you. I'll then invite the next alliance, coordinated by Andrew Ochama, coordinator for the Eastern Africa Alliance on Carbon Markets and Climate Finance. And then, fresh off the block, Tirivanu Moati, who is the coordinator for the Southern Africa Alliance on Carbon Markets and Climate Finance. And I'll now take my seat. Great. So thank you so much for joining me on stage today. I know every time I call Usman the elder, he usually, yes. So Usman, thank you so much. So I'll just get a sense from the alliances in terms of your journey until now. I think we'd already had that the first alliance was set up now making 10 years, so 2016. It's been quite a bit of a journey. And Usman, just to get a sense from the start, what was the original motivation for bringing countries together into what now forms the alliance, and how has this vision evolved over time? Usman, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the German government and GIZ for giving us this opportunity to have this event where, fortunately, we have all the African alliances together and to be able to share our respective experiences with all of you. And thank you, Rita, for the moderation. To talk about the journey of the West African Alliance on carbon markets and climate finance, I think I should start right from the beginning and to tell a bit about the main motivation of creating this alliance. Everything started with an observation that in the Kyoto Protocol, we had the Clean Development Mechanism. That was a mechanism under the UNFCCC framework that was established for developing countries to develop projects and use this mechanism to mobilize additional revenue in their country. But unfortunately, we realized that at the end of the day, we did not take advantage a lot of this previous mechanism. And being a practitioner and a negotiator of African countries and West African countries, being involved in the process for many years and seeing what will come under the Paris Agreement, we did realize that if we move to the Paris Agreement, we will be facing more challenges, and it will be more difficult for us to take advantage of this mechanism because of many reasons that I will not list here. Having made that observation, we decided to change our way of preparing everything. We decided to make sure that we will be well prepared, we will be more organized, and will be present in the places where decision will be taken. I mean, in the negotiation table, because it was not the case during the CDM. And as a group of negotiators, we decided to create what we call the West African Alliance in order to foster active participation of West African countries to carbon markets, to facilitate the implementation of our NDCs, and to bring additional resources in our member countries through these markets. But to be able to do that, we need a lot of capacity. We need the appropriate frameworks, the enabling environment. We need to raise awareness among all the key stakeholders in the carbon market ecosystem. And we need to have robust institutional framework in our member countries. So to do that, we need to be better prepared. And we need to see how best we can accompany our countries. That's where we decided in 2016, in the margin of COP22 in Marrakesh, to launch this initiative. And we were really lucky that right at the beginning, we managed to have the affiliation of all 16 member countries in West Africa with different characteristics, because in West Africa, we have English-speaking countries, French-speaking countries, Portuguese-speaking countries, and we managed to have all the 16 in one entity. And that is unique, because some countries are inside ECOWAS, some others are not inside ECOWAS, some are inside the West African Monetary Union, others are not. But the Alliance is the only framework where you find all the 16 member countries in Africa. And this was a really challenge that we managed to take. And from there, we started, thanks to the very important support coming from the German government, to implement a lot of activities in terms of technical preparation of our negotiators when it comes to participate to the UNFCCC negotiation under Article 6, in terms of technical capacity, development of tools, regional coordination, in terms of private sector involvement, in terms of also political buy-in, because we managed to have our political leaders on board, and we decided to choose one of our ministers as the ambassador of the West African Alliance. This we managed to have it in order to have the political endorsement of our member countries. And the first ambassador was the Minister of Environment from Liberia, country of my friend Christopher Kaba, who is here. And it was really instrumental to have this for the political endorsement, because in our countries, you cannot do something that is significant if you don't have the political buy-in at the highest level. And we managed to do that. From 2016 to 2025, last year, we've been very active in the negotiation process, because as you have seen, Africa has now become more vocal when it comes to discuss about carbon markets. And we were really, I cannot say, we were on the driving seat, but we were not aside of the process, as it was the case in the CDM era. And that was really important for us. And we managed also to participate in the operationalization of the Article 6. That was the journey from 2016 to 2025 last year when we fully operationalized the Article 6 rulebook. In terms of evolution of the vision, we did realize that our initial objective was to facilitate the participation of our member countries to the carbon markets. But over time, we did realize that better coordination within West African countries is something that is really important. Harmonization is something that is really important because we are sharing the same economic area, and we have some countries have common markets. For example, if you take the West African Monetary Union, we have the same currency, is the franc CFA. 8 countries have the same currency, and we have one political entity, ECOWAS. And if every country try to put in place some carbon pricing instrument or develop carbon market mechanism in their own country, it might become a problem in the future in terms of integration. In terms of vision, now we are more moving to see how best we can harmonize our approaches at a sub-regional level within ECOWAS or within West African Monetary Union, so that we will avoid some distortion in the economic market and things like that. The other aspect that we have also noticed in terms of vision is the peer-to-peer learning that we are now more and more developing within our alliance, because as Rachel said at the beginning, we have some front runners in our region, those who have managed to be ready very quickly, like Ghana, like Cote d'Ivoire, like Senegal, but we have some beginners who are in our region. And our strategy is to avoid to leave anyone behind. So more and more we are trying to see how best we can facilitate a peer-to-peer learning process, because from now to the next 5 or 10 years, we have another challenge. The challenge is the implementation of these decisions, these guidelines that we agreed to adopt under the UNFCCC framework. How we can do to originate project, how we can do to manage to make our countries, our institutions fully operational, how we can do to have the appropriate infrastructure, how we can do to have appropriate MRV system in our country. So all these challenges are relative to concrete implementation of project on the ground. That's why our vision is now evolving in terms of making our member countries more ready to deliver. Because at the end of the day, what counts is the number of ITMOs you have transacted and the revenues you have mobilized. So just to summarize, that's how we evolve from creating this alliance, preparing the operationalization of Article 6, and now addressing the challenge of concrete implementation of projects on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Usman. And it's very clear that the Western African Alliance has been quite a big inspiration, building on that vision that it started with. I remember the time we would hear about the West African Alliance, and then before we know it, the fire caught on the eastern side of the continent. So I think it's important that that has built that momentum and has also birthed other alliances. And maybe to turn to Andrew now. So the Eastern Africa Alliance, which is composed of about eight countries, built on from that vision. And again, going back to the point, Usman, you mentioned about opening these boundaries beyond the existing regional blocks, which is, I think, a very important point. Maybe, Andrew, you could just give us a feel of what the biggest milestones have been since the establishment of the Eastern Africa Alliance, and potentially, of course, like we said, coordinating countries with different levels of readiness and the like does not really come easy. So it would be interesting to hear about how this has evolved in terms of diversity as well. So over to you, Andrew.
Okay, thank you very much. The Eastern Africa Alliance was started in 2019. I have been eyeing the Eastern Africa Alliance for a while because I knew it was a very strong support system. In fact, there are people who are quite prominent in its formation. Peter, you were in the room when Eastern Africa Alliance was first talked of. Is Sven, see Stefan, see John at the back. It's good to see that the supporters of the alliance are still with us. I didn't know Rachel at the moment. I mean, at the time, but over time, I've begun to see the champions of the alliance. But to the point, I consider every time we start a new delivery platform, I consider that a major milestone. The first time we supported, in line with, the developments that were taking place in West Africa, we also developed a framework to support, to strengthen the participation of countries in the negotiation process. We realized from the start, if you're getting involved in a global process, you're going to be committed to it, your rules are going to be bound by it, so you should be able to contribute to its formation. You should be able to decide its structure. So the first time we actually supported negotiation, and every time we do have this continuous support before every SB, before every COP. Yes, in partnership. I mean, right now, major partners in delivering that: Africa Group of Negotiators, Climate Focus, Conservation International. These are key supporters of the Eastern Africa Alliance. Every time we publish a new document, when we do a major activity as the Eastern Africa Alliance, we make sure we publish a document. But I think before we started this practice, there was one major document that stood out for me. It was a carbon markets blueprint. It was developed for Uganda and kind of set a framework that would guide how carbon markets are established in the country. We've gone on to publish other documents apart from, after that, including the key technologies document. We have published the nature-based solutions training manual, which I think that was, to me, a major milestone as well, because in addition to publishing, we trained practitioners from around the region. More than 50 people were involved, both virtually and in person. For a couple of days, and we managed to have a discussion on this, and the benefits of regional collaboration at the Africa Climate Summit. That is part of regional collaboration as well. The Eastern African Alliance, well, the fact that we have 8 countries, we have an opportunity to convene countries to discuss carbon markets. I think the first convening took place a few months after it was formed. And taking the lessons and opinions that were communicated by stakeholders to the negotiating table from as far back as 2019. That has been pretty important. We've had a couple of other regional carbon markets dialogues in the past 7 years. Dar es Salaam, Entebbe, Nairobi. Nairobi was the last one. Nairobi was my first. That was last year. And we did manage to bring together, key players from both the government and the private sector, hosted by the government of Kenya in partnership with AITA and with support from the UNFCCC Regional Collaboration Center as well. I didn't mention in the start that for the past 7 years, by the way we are structured, we're actually hosted by the Regional Collaboration Center of the UNFCCC. It's a very good platform because you have the opportunity to contribute to the work of the RCC, but even more, the RCC has experts who you have the opportunity to liaise with and strengthen the delivery platform that is the Eastern Africa Alliance. There is still one major milestone I will have to talk about, and that is where we are right now. Following COP29 and the Article 6 rules are agreed, yes, we are negotiating. We're going to negotiate again in 2028. And right now, it's about implementation. And in order to implement, one, you need, I think it goes to the second question. Each country that we work with is unique. Because there are only 8, I always mention them one by one. Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, Burundi, Ethiopia, Somalia, and Sudan. Each country has unique requirements. So we should have a structure that is able to deliver, on the country's readiness needs. The way we're structured right now, we work very closely and very well with, I call them associates, and their team lead from the Global Carbon Markets Program of GIZ. But we need to have experts on our team who would be able to liaise on specific projects, with a lot more concentration on 4 projects at a time, which is a little bit of a weight for one person to do. So we're transitioning our structure right now, and this is not without precedent. We're walking in the footsteps of our elders, which is also an African practice. We're walking in the footsteps of our elders. We are becoming I'll say autonomous, but also semi-autonomous, organization. We are establishing a secretariat that will be able to meet those requirements in terms of personnel development, but also finance. You talk of 8 different countries with 8 separate needs. There's some, right now my work plan has 8 activities that are regionally focused, but then there are a lot more, almost 8 times that are country focused. Some of them are things that we could deliver with a one-on-one training. So yeah, over the next couple of months, there will be a stronger Eastern Africa Alliance. And yes, we continue to appreciate, rely on the collaboration that we have developed, but also the support of our partners. One major partner I forgot to mention, I didn't forget, but my narration changed as I was speaking. East Africa Development Bank. East Africa Development Bank has been a supporter of the Alliance from the start. By virtue of them hosting the Regional Collaboration Center of the UNFCCC, they actually have a member on our steering committee, and they provide support, they provide guidance, and have been very much involved in supporting the buildup of a strategy to a more autonomous organization. And yeah, you will see a few changes over the next months. Rita, back to you.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and we look forward to the evolution of the Eastern Africa Alliance. Maybe to get a sense in the room, how many people in the room, by a show of hands, have sort of engaged with or worked with or supported the alliances or the people sitting here? By a show of hands, so that they can see their supporters. All their fans in the room. Perfect. Very good turnout. Thank you so much for being here. Really nice to have a diverse room, and also to have a lot of interest in the work of the Alliance. So thank you again, Andrew, for giving us a feel of the Eastern Africa Alliance. I know that later you'll have a bit of a deeper dive into some of the tools and approaches that the Alliance is undertaking. Thierry, I'll turn to you now. Thierry Vando, very happy to have the newest, let's say newest kid on the block, but in this case, newest powerful alliance. I think the Southern Africa Alliance also comes with a lot of momentum building in, of course, the regional blocks and quite a number of countries that are advancing the carbon market space. So we're very happy to have the alliance join the bigger alliance family. As the newest alliance, Tirivanu, what sort of opportunities and gaps prompted the setting up of the Southern Africa Alliance? And maybe it would be good to also know what your first priorities are for the member countries to build this momentum. I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you very much. And we would also want to have as many supporters as the African Alliance. And to get into your question with regards the opportunities that we saw, as well as the gaps that prompted the formation of the Alliance, I think the first thing is what's the possibility of getting capacity building support, learning from the other two alliances that were already in operation. So we have West Africa, 10 years old. We have East Africa, 7 years old. And we have Southern Africa, which is 2.5 months old. But we started the process about 2 years ago. The idea came after Glasgow, and also realizing that the first rules we got out of Article 6 were complex, and the realization that definitely as a region and as individual countries would need support to implement these rules. But there are also opportunities in terms of experience sharing if we are looking at our situation today as a region. The alliance is composed of the following countries. We have Malawi, we have Madagascar, we have Mauritius, we have Mozambique, we have Zambia, we have Zimbabwe, we have Botswana, and we have Lesotho. If you look at all these individual countries, you will find they have their own strengths. They are already engaging in the carbon market. Some are already engaging in the results-based kind of payments. They already have experiences on that. If you look at Madagascar, and if you look at Mozambique, they have already engaged in some of these results-based payments kind of arrangements. So they have experiences in that. If you look at Zambia, they have already engaged in bilateral cooperation, and they have already, I think, also signed 1 or 2 mitigation outcome purchase agreements or at an advanced stage. So as a country, they also have experiences in that. You look at Zimbabwe, they have a registry, they have engaged, they have submitted their first initial report, and so forth. So they also have experiences in that. These experiences can be shared amongst countries, and you know, they can assist in terms of accelerating progress in the other countries. But this cannot be done without a formal coming together as an alliance. The gaps that we saw and still see are the gaps related to technical capacity. If you look at host country responsibilities, for example, for 6.2 and for 6.4, you have 500 pages of that. And these need to be synthesized and make sure that the host parties, they understand. Because some of the reasons why, as Africa, we're lagging behind a bit, it's because the host governments themselves get no capacity, internal capacity within the governments or government institutions to promote the carbon market. Then as a region, specific region as Southern Africa, we are also lagging behind in terms of attracting carbon finance and lagging behind in terms of attracting climate finance. Empirical evidence, you can find it on the GCF website if you look at the regional distribution of resources. Just using GCF as an example, you will find that Southern Africa, as compared to East and West, is a deep lagging behind in terms of attracting climate finance in general. So the Alliance is also coming to try and jumpstart the region from its slumber to move us from our comfort zone so that we also become more visible, more aggressive, because the finance is needed. The opportunities are there in terms of carbon opportunities. The finance, climate finance in general, is needed for both adaptation and mitigation and advancing sustainable development. In terms of our priorities, since we are newborn, we are looking at ensuring that the Alliance becomes a legal, autonomous organization. So we want to leapfrog. We understand our colleagues here are also moving towards that. They're 7 years in existence, but learning from them, we would also want to leapfrog some of the processes and also make sure that we move to the next stage. We need to know the priorities of each and every country. So we are looking at country profiling, making sure that we have targeted, interventions. I already highlighted that each and every country is at different stages, different experiences. So a profiling exercise will assist us in ensuring that the resources, which are getting scarcer and scarcer by the year, are made to good use, and we get targeted interventions for each of the member states. Then we are also looking at ensuring that we move on as quickly as we can, riding on the tools and materials that have already been developed for the West and East Africa. There are manuals that have been developed for East Africa. I think one of the latest ones has to do maybe with, I think with livestock, development of livestock related kind of projects. Those are manuals that can be adopted by the Southern African region as well, so that we don't reinvent the wheel. We use what the other alliances have already advanced. Then there are linkages to potential pilots within the project, within the region. We have other countries that are yet to start the Article 6 journey, a few of them within the region. And we think the process to ensuring that they get up to speed as quickly as possible is to link them to opportunities for pilots within their own countries. There's no better learning than learning by doing. That will then assist them to move forward and assist the rest of us as a region. It's back to you, Peter.
Thank you so much, Tirivanu. I often like the exchanges among the alliances because, again, while some of the alliances are more advanced, still they have a lot to learn from the Southern Africa Alliance and the way it's set up its structure, or setting up its structure. So I think it's still cross learning, despite the amount of time that they've spent setting the structures up, but also the duration of time, because all the countries are within different stages as well of development. And thank you so much for highlighting that, Thierry. So and thank you all for the three coordinators for a very insightful session. We will now cross into the next session without wasting so much time. And for this, I'm very pleased to invite my colleague Fanta. Fanta Diop is a Francophone local expert working with the Western Africa Alliance on carbon markets and climate finance, and she will walk us through the next session. So I'll now leave the stage for her. Thank you all so much for this first session.
Thank you, Rita. So now that we have heard from the Alliance coordinator about their experiences and also their priority and the lessons that they have learned from all the 10 years of having like those alliance working with all those countries, I will now welcome Jean-Pierre from Climate Focus, that is one of the technical partners of the West African Alliance. So we will provide a brief presentation of the West African Alliance Carbon Market Knowledge Hub, and also a tool, the Carbon Levy Simulator tool. So please join. Yeah, so thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good to be here. It's a pleasure and honor to join this panel and be here to present our latest tools and have a bit of a deep dive into the technical work that we do. And thank you also for the Ministry for hosting this event. It's a real pleasure to be here. So, yeah. So this, what you're seeing now on the screen is the primary, what I like to call business card of the West African Alliance. And whichever event we're at, you just visit our website, you have mostly all of the information that you need to know about the West African Alliance. You have the About Us page, which provides a little bit on the governance of the Alliance, including a little bit of the history that was just mentioned by Usman, as well as country pages for all 16 West African countries, including one West Africa country page for all, for information, aggregating this information into one consolidated page. You will find information on VCM, CDM participation, on their NDCs, on their current needs, which is also very important for other development partners interested in supporting specific alliance countries, looking at these pages and determining what is the current most pressing need of these alliance, and reaching out to the alliance through the Contact Us page to request support, which then goes directly to the Secretariat of the Alliance, and then it's raised to the steering committee members of the Alliance, where, I mean, it's the body that provides guidance and approves activities, which are then implemented by the technical partners and local experts. We have a news and events page on the latest happenings. You will see our latest participation at the Innovate for Climate conference, our last member meeting that took place in the Gambia, which was a really nice opportunity to exchange with all West African members, and our activities, which is a portal for all our knowledge products, but we also host external products that are shared with us. So if you have any interesting products that you think would be useful for the alliances, that's one way to feature them and have them shared with West African Alliance focal points. And now to the Knowledge Hub. So in 2022, we developed the Article 6 Readiness Blueprint, which came out of the needs of the countries. They were looking for one blueprint that can guide them through carbon market readiness. So we developed this blueprint and launched it in 2022. And after that, 6 months or a year later, we developed the Knowledge Hub, part of the website based on this blueprint. And we've recently updated the Knowledge Hub to reflect the latest rule set changes and updates. So it includes information on technical aspects such as authorizations, applying corresponding adjustments, legal aspects, going into bilateral agreements. So a lot of also transactional and legal issues. And it has new graphs, downloadable information. It's quite, like a lot of work was put into this. So I really encourage you to give it a look when you can. I would suggest to keep your phones with you throughout this short presentation, just to scan some QR codes that we will show you. So that's the first QR code that I would say should scan, please. And once you scan it, park your phones, because we will have more to look through in a bit, and you can then browse through the Knowledge Hub a bit later, maybe during the lunch, and then come to us for questions regarding this. So what we're here to present is the Carbon Levies Simulator tool, which is the latest Alliance knowledge product. What we're trying to do here is a soft launch, because it's quite a complex tool. It's a tool that provides governments with information on their potential government revenues from a project, for instance, total project revenues, and also any credits withheld or what have you. So this was the latest, from what we thought, based on country needs, useful tool from countries. So what's the process that led to that? We've received a number of requests from countries, a number of questions that we couldn't really solve easily. And these questions are, for instance, how can I structure administrative fees and levies? in my government? How can I test different policy options and scenarios? How can I recover my public expenditures by participating in the market? So we took in all these needs, and as I mentioned, we raised them to the steering committee of the West African Alliance, which then led them to approve the request, which then led us to develop a report, which slowly changed to a tool, because we felt like the report wasn't as useful as it could be with the 2 focal points. So slowly this turned into a tool, which we've tested in person with a number of facilitators during our member meeting in the Gambia, and then virtually as well with other interested participants. So we are now at the stage where we have a beta tool. So what's included in the tool? We have 4 pilot countries, which are Ghana, Kenya, Zimbabwe, and Malaysia. And we've chosen these 4 countries because they have quite robust policy regulatory information. So we've taken that and reflected them in data lines that we have in the background of the tool. So these preset countries include preset configurations within the tool to test different policy scenarios for the countries. And the user is then able to change the different fees and levies to test different benefits coming out of the tool. And these 4 countries have different policy scenarios. So Malaysia has a lot of regulation on forestry. Zimbabwe has a tax on total revenues, for instance, which is not very common. Kenya has a interesting tax on or fee on citizens and non-citizens. Ghana has a quite comprehensive administrative fees and levies overview. But then if your country is not there, there is an option to select the test country. So even if Ghana would like to test different policy scenarios, they can select test country and explore these options. So sorry if I'm going a little bit quick, I'm trying to keep with the time. The tool essentially helps governments look at what is their revenue. So what is the total project revenue? What is the government share of this revenue based on the fees and levies that they apply? And what are the different credits withheld within the tool? So what you need to get to these outputs is to include administrative fees, per credit fees, result-based levies and corresponding adjustment fees and levies, and any in-kind deductions. Once you do this and you select project information, the output will show in the government dashboard. So this is a quick overview of the navigation tool, which provides an overview on the user guide and the definitions. So this section provides background information that you need to know to understand how to use the tool. And each sheet has also a support guide that is on the right-hand side of each of the parameters, which you need to follow closely so that the tool works properly. The 2 main sheets are the inputs sheets and the calculations sheets. In the inputs sheet, you include project information. So for example, country and project information. So for instance, I choose Ghana, I choose the forestry sector. I would say this is a project that will generate, let's say, 500,000 carbon emission reductions. My price for non-authorized credits is $10. My price for authorized credits is, let's say, $20. And then you set the year and the crediting timeline of the project. And then slowly you start to see the dashboard kind of form based on that. Try to be quick. And in the calculations sheet, you include administrative and fees and levies. Then you have other optional sheets, which are on government operation costs, opportunity costs for price increase in the future, and then NDC contribution at a high level. So how much is this one project that's included in the tool reducing or helping me contribute to my NDCs? So how do you get in touch with the Alliance? Through the Contact Us page. For the West African Alliance member countries, there is a whole process to get through this, and we're always regularly receiving requests for support from them through the access to the online support request form. And for other countries or other interested parties, and if you would like to provide feedback to the tool, you can go through the general inquiries section. And if you're a development partner looking to support a country, you click on country support. So this request goes directly to the West African Alliance Secretariat, which then is raised at the level of the steering committee members who approve, like I said, the activity, and then the Francophone and Anglophone local experts take this request forward, involve us technical partners, and then we implement the activity together. So with that, I hope I kept for the time. I'll leave it on this slide so you can then download the tool on the left-hand side, which will download an Excel file immediately. Please be sure to enable macros so that the tool works properly. And then on the right-hand side, there's a 9-minute tutorial that goes in depth, and it's much more clear than how I'm presenting this hastily on YouTube, which is on the West African Alliance YouTube page. So you can always access it there. So with that, thank you very much for your time, and I'll hand the floor back over to Fanta. Thanks.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre. As the West African countries, you've already tried this tool. So we still invite you to practice again and come back with some feedbacks. And don't hesitate also to reach out to the Secretariat and also to the local expert. So me and my colleague Ismaila for the country in Francophone Africa and Anglophone Africa. So now I'm gonna give the floor to Andrew that will give us a presentation of the Eastern African Alliance. Feel free to stay put, or if you want, you can just join me here. Thank you. Please, a little applause for him.
Thank you very much, Fanta. At this point, I'd usually say you have caused problems by allowing me to speak while standing. I tend to enjoy my speeches and my presentations while standing a lot better than while seated. So thank you very much. This showcase will be kind of to give a little bit more of a deep dive into where the Eastern Africa Alliance has come from, but also I think it's at this point, as we go through our transition, to talk about the aspirations we're looking to as an alliance. I have already talked about this. Was established in June 2019. We started off as 6 Eastern African countries. We've grown to 8. Our most recent members being Sudan and Somalia. And we're still hosted at the Secretariat of the UNFCCC. Sorry, the RCC of the UNFCCC. That's where our Secretariat is hosted in Kampala, Uganda. We do see a lot of potential coming from East Africa, Eastern Africa, especially through nature-based solutions. But Eastern Africa is also a region where, at the moment, there's a lot of work going on towards structural progress, development, and this is an opportune time for us to, take on the right solutions, especially in terms of technology and also practice that are low carbon, energy efficient, but extremely modern, and if I may use the word efficient again. But we've made commitments as a region through our NDCs, and this is where our priorities are. As we attract investment, as we build our markets, the question remains, how can we do all this, make sure that investment occurs, but we meet our commitments as done through the NDCs and as made through the NDCs, while also achieving our greater development priorities. So this is how we work as the Eastern Africa Alliance currently. Without going into the structure of the alliance and how that works, the key things that we're looking out for are country readiness support, and country readiness support goes all the way from establishing a framework to show how carbon markets will be set up, what they will be used for, all the way to the policies that guide this, the structures that are required to implement, to the supporting institutions. I'll use the word institutions in the sense of the function, things like audit and finance, the investment institutions, but then all the way to now bringing the capacity to the private sector to actually make use of what's on the ground. While at it, yes, we do knowledge creation. We do that by sharing knowledge that has been implemented, has been developed by partners, but also and we do that usually through, now we aim to do at least one online training a month. That does not underscore the fact that we also do physical training. But we produce new knowledge as well on, that would be valuable for the growth of the carbon markets in the region. Over the next couple of months, we will have 2 more reports out. Regional convening is something that we do as well, and we don't do it only under the framework of the Eastern Africa Alliance. We will partner with stakeholders, with key stakeholders. Case in point, during the last regional carbon markets dialogue, we did have a very strong partnership with AITA. It was a successful, very successful convening. And yeah, this enables us to reach far and wide. Beyond the reach of the Alliance, we're able to reach stakeholders from a global sense and have everyone who is important in the room. A key part of the regional convening for us as the Eastern Africa Alliance is not just to have the interests of the Eastern Africa Alliance considered, but then broader African perspectives discussed in the room. So we always have, whether it's online or in person, we try and make sure that the other alliances are present in the room for the same. And then Usman has talked a little bit in a bit more detail about the support we provide to those who get to the negotiation table. That's a key part of our operations. I have said something a little bit about the most recent milestones. Somalia joined the alliance this year. It was quite fast. It started towards the end of last year and became the 8th member at the beginning of the year in January. Because of how we want to support the Eastern Africa Alliance and the fact that currently our structure, the structure that we are operating with, which we're transitioning from, is a little bit limited, we have developed partnerships to meet, key country needs. We observed 2 that have been consistently within the country wish lists. One was the development and strengthening of regulatory frameworks to support implementation of carbon markets. The second one was a real conversation on developing registries. We supported from the side the recent report on VVB capacity in Africa that was published by Perspectives with support from VCMI and GIZ. I've not seen that out earlier. You're telling me I have 5 minutes left, but thank you. And then, yes, over the past year, we've also published the training manual for nature-based carbon projects. A key part of the way we're moving forward is in the coordination of activity around the continent, strengthening regional collaboration across alliances. We have been recognized, not just the Eastern African Alliance, but the alliance structures have been recognized as a key part of the architecture that will be used in strengthening carbon markets around the continent. And this is through the implementation of the African principles, underpinned by an African coordination mechanism led by African Union, New Partnership for Africa Development, UNEPAD, but including all the regional alliances. We have started that engagement. We had it in a very light way at a couple of months back. That was the first meeting. But it's a mechanism that we intend to and hope will kind of align our thinking over the region, over the continent on development of carbon markets, enable us to exchange in a broader manner, but also leverage the opportunity of size to earn finance. Then the second key instrument in the way we move forward is, I mean, we started engaging regional donors on a way that we can coordinate and collaborate better support to ensure that we have adequate support to different partners within the continent, I mean, within the region, the Eastern Africa region. I can't help but talk about this dialogue. I consider this a milestone when we get on stage together and we have the opportunity to speak of the progress, but also speak of our aspirations of what we want to do. Key strategic priorities as we transform towards a delivery platform. We aim to establish a functional secretariat, full with the legal mandate to operate, backed by every single one of the countries that we serve. Then build a standing coordination platform that will also enable regional exchange of knowledge. And this goes beyond only published reports. It goes to beyond published reports, it goes to an understanding of the kind of activities that are being implemented around the continent. What we would aim to avoid as a continent is duplication. Duplication is a challenge that and it makes sure finance is available, but it's going to the same activities. It's not very efficient. It's not coordinated. And quite often, in addition to it being repetitive, it sometimes provides divergent views. If we could collaborate, coordinate better, it would enable us grow. Next key strategic priority for us would be, and this is in learning from the West African Alliance, higher level political engagement, which we will be able to do once our structures are established. Upon engagement to the private sector, we have also identified the need and the opportunity for market exchange and have started engagement on a platform that will enable not just market exchange, but actual access to finance for project developers, finance for development, but also sale of credits. Highlighted in green is a key one because this one is at the core of what the Alliance does. Quite often we partner, we have a pool of finance that we can work with. So we partner with different stakeholders to deliver on country needs. But important for us will be the opportunity to be a lot more efficiently responsive in terms of time, especially once we have a delivery fund that is maintained by our regional, our financing partner, our financial partners, which we intend to be, and we're working on it. We intend to be a major regional financing institution. We will be able to respond to the country needs, both through the delivery and readiness framework, but also as per the country needs. The needs are sometimes as simple as support with language. Some of our members are not purely Anglophone, so they do need support in strengthening their language skills, and that is something that we could respond to a lot faster once we have a delivery fund. Then finally, as a strategic priority, a regional catalytic instrument, something to enable delivery, but outside the outside the framework of government that would enable access to finance to de-risk participation in the carbon markets. I have said a little bit about the standing coordination platform, basically aiming at reducing the fragmentation in the readiness space. We aim to manage that platform, organized through a quarterly plenary, which is basically a quarterly roundtable in person, but have thematic working groups touching the core subjects that underpin readiness. And we will be supported by country level focal points who would be able to collate country level information. And I mean, broadly, the way we look at it is policy, is infrastructure, including MRV registries, then there's private sector activation, and then finally, this opportunity to support COP participation. It'll be supported by a knowledge hub, which we're also building on. I want to say this, in my country, the term we use is, it's a loose term. They say you've cheated exams, that you've basically learned from someone who went ahead of you. And we actually have learned from the West African Alliance, the leverage you can have through a knowledge platform. And we intend to make it a space where partners in the initiative can contribute better, but through easy access to information, sharing information as well, generally making sure that what is happening in the region is transparent, but it's available. This is one sentence, no, two sentences for me. We intend to grow the alliance. We'll transition it, enable the development of a legal entity. We need to establish independence, but while doing so, make sure that we maintain and strengthen the credibility of the institution. But in the long term, we need to have an institution that works beyond the agency of the coordinator. We should have someone standing here if I have a challenge, or if I have a good challenge. For example, if my family has expanded and I'm not able to come, there should be someone here from the Alliance to speak here. And those are the aspirations that we have. Those are the plans that we have. Those are the structures that we aim to work with. And we look forward to more, and we invite stronger collaboration as well. But we look forward to and really applaud and appreciate the collaboration and partnership that we currently have. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for this beautiful presentation. So now that we finish with some example of what both alliances have been experiencing during those last 10 and 7 years, please a round of applause for our panelists. And we're gonna move to the next session. So if you could give the floor to the focal point, the country focal point, I will call them as soon as. Thank you. So we will now move to our final segment, which gives the opportunity to the country focal point of both of the alliance. of the three alliances to come and to share a little bit of their experience. So I will invite Asmo Jibril from Nigeria to join the spot. Also, Alioune Fall from Mauritania. Ressa Kombi from Kenya. And H Tempo from Zambia. So thank you all for being with us today. In this session, our country representative will first share their experience and perspective before we open the discussion to the question and reflection of the public. So without further ado, I will begin with you, Asmao. With the first question, so what tangible value has Nigeria gained from participating in the Alliance? And what impact have you observed in your country carbon market readiness?
Thank you, Fanta, and hello, everyone. So with the Alliance, Nigeria has benefited a lot. We're one of the pioneer countries to join the Alliance. At the beginning, of course, my coordinator has already told us why we formed the Alliance, so that we will not be left behind in the of. So first of all, we were supported by the Alliance for a readiness program, which was with the carbon. Yes. So we got the readiness program, and it was capacity building and stakeholder mapping. As at that time, it was in 2018. We invited the private sector and the public sector in Nigeria for awareness, and then we also mapped out the stakeholders. So also, we usually have member meetings. I'm sure Usman has spoken about that. The Alliance member meetings at least twice in a year. So one was done in Abuja in Nigeria, and there's a lot of capacity building as well. It's an opportunity for some of stakeholders in the country, whatever country we're doing it in, to come and experience what we're doing, and also some kind of awareness raising and all of that. So that was done in Nigeria. So also when we were trying to develop our carbon market policy or framework, whatever, we had some confusion about the legal assessment. So us to run to the Alliance for support, and supported, and we had the legal assessment done, carbon market architecture. Also, right now, there's also a lot of requests sent by the countries who have the Alliance supporting us on getting ready with either implementation, like Usman said, on different levels. Some have, some are still, some have not even started. Nigeria right now is benefiting from the stakeholder mapping. That's one of our requests, not just the only request, but we have requests. But for now, what is ongoing is the stakeholder mapping. So we are also being supported for participation at the SBs and at the COPs. So far since I think around 2017, we have been supported for SBs and COPs. And right now we're here, most of us are here because of the Alliance, the support by the Alliance. So also, the Alliance has also facilitated some meetings with development partners with other the member countries, just like, example, the UND, the climate promise to support our NDCs and creation of markets in our NDCs, and then a lot of support from the Alliance for drafting our carbon market frameworks, like for Nigeria, had a lot of support from the Alliance to and right now we just launched, not just launched, but it was launched in the last COP. Our carbon market policy and manual of procedures was launched. And I can see that the Alliance has so much, has a drafting of that policy. Say thank you to the Alliance. So a lot of countries are benefiting a lot from this Alliance. So also in the Eastern and Southern African alliances also, I believe they give the same kind of support. So I encourage Southern to continue with what they're doing, and I believe that in Africa.
Thank you, Asmo. Alioune, looking back, what is one lesson Mauritania has learned about building institutional readiness for carbon markets and could benefit countries that are just beginning their journey?
Thank you very much. I think we have gone out of the decorum of African practices. I saw that I'm the senior here and I have given. Anyway, I think that one lesson, and I will come back to that. But first thing is to thank the German government because I think I've been here before with Alliance for a long time, and then to thank our partners and GIZ for leading now Mauritanian LPS led. So I think that this is kind of like since we can together, and I think one thing we learn from have always advocated is have full buy-in. And that was our problems. Our biggest problem was political buy-in. As you know, as ministries, sometime in Africa, they have so much to do that will have somebody, authority level, that understand exactly what is it about carbon market. As you know, Mauritania have passed through the parliament, like the code for green hydrogen. I think that has helped a little bit, but also through the alliance. And I have always said that we need pretty much to get our leaders to understand what the carbon market. And I'm so frustrated because we always had, the English-speaking countries, Ghana, Nigeria, they're always up there, Senegal, and then Cote d'Ivoire. And we have the rest. And it was frustrating because looking at the CDM, most of the African countries, we didn't develop CDM projects. So this was the time with Article 6, we at the same level. And I think that where the Alliance have played a well-leveled plan, I think that as of now, through the Alliance, Mauritania at least have developed through GCC, registry on Article 6.2, a little bit. And I think the most important thing also to sell was the website. Become really, like you said, you said it earlier, that convince certain people was just like, okay, we have our website. Can you go? What we have done, what Mauritania have realized, mapping of etc. So I think that that's one pretty good thing. And the other thing is to have recruited the local expert. And for that, I think that we have our hands full. Before we complained, we didn't have enough. But I think with Fanta, it's just unbelievable. And I'm going to share something with you. Because on Eid, we all celebrate. he is fun calling the next day for our coordination meeting. I said, because like, this has gone so far, so too far now. I think, but coming back to really, I think that the alliance have grown, and then we have seen so much now. And as Jean-Pierre have demonstrated, we go another level. Actually, I try to share a little bit the new concept, and then people are so interested. I said, myself, I haven't tried the whole thing with green hydrogen with project on nursery, but just too simple. I think that as a family, we're growing up, and then we're learning more. And I think that I'm sure by next year, I'll just give it next year, we'll have one of the African countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Aliun, for telling everyone always behind you. So now, Reza, from your perspective as a regional leader, what do you see as Kenya's role in strengthening carbon market in Eastern Africa? And what lesson can other countries build from Kenya's experience?
Thank you, and greetings to everyone. First off, I would like to thank the organizers of this meeting, and more so the Alliance is keeping strong in meeting whenever there's an opportunity to, encouraging dialogue, especially with the focal points in the various member countries. I think this thing I can speak about it even in my sleep. So yes, we are regarded as a regional leader in terms of setting up the legal infrastructure on climate change and also carbon markets in that sense. And that being, we did start with a law, not a framework, but a law, embedding carbon markets within the Climate Change Act and setting up the subsidiary legislations to operationalize the provisions of the Act. And therefore, we've been walking a journey of step by step, laying the basic procedures as we continue to shape the broader rules and guidance internationally. So we were not fearful. We at least started before the finalization of the rule book. But the lesson worth emphasizing is the deliberate investment in the legal and institutional infrastructure, and doing it early enough before the transactional volumes become a lot in your jurisdictions. And this builds the avoidance of retrofitting on a case by case as the requests come to you as a government. And in the long run, then you continue providing clarity to the practitioners and the investors. And that follows with financial flows as well. And I'll say the real regional leadership is showing you working through the trials and tribulations within the markets, where you show that these are the products you're working with, and these are the dead ends you're experiencing. These are the challenges we are working with. And I believe if countries could speak who have come after us, is that when you show that, then the next country does not have to take a detour. Andrew did mention you don't have to start from scratch, but I believe you start from scratch because scratch is your baseline, but then you start informed, and also you have someone to learn from, and they will skip all the detours and know that this is the direction. And from the regional dimension specifically, I would say it's less about Kenya leading and more about preventing fragmented landscape in the region. And therefore, from that question, I wouldn't say the real lesson isn't about leadership, but it's more about making sure we do it in as much as it's hard and unclear. Let's start doing it. And we've seen that we've learned along the process, and we'll continue to share experiences and our lessons with the interested parties or member states across the region. Yeah, that's all I'll say for now.
Thank you, Risa. So now, Mr. Tembo, as part of the newly established Southern Africa Alliance, what are the key expectations of Zambia as for the Southern African Alliance, and what opportunity do you see for accelerating progress for the outset?
Thank you so much for the question, and to the organizers, again, thank you for the invitation. As Thierry indicated in his presentation, we are a new kid on the block. And one of the expectations is that we are going through the alliance to enhance mobilization of carbon finance. Thierry did also state that Southern Africa may be a bit behind in terms of the mobilization of carbon finance, and therefore the formation of the alliance gives us an opportunity to utilize the alliance to mobilize this much needed carbon finance. And then the other area is that of institutional strengthening, but also regulations on carbon markets. We are looking at, within the region, enhancing the development, but also development of carbon market frameworks, but also the strengthening of the institutions for the coordination of the entire value chain of the carbon market. The other issue is the technical capacity building. We expect that through the alliance, we are going to strengthen our technical capacities in terms of the implementation of mitigation activities, but also peer-to-peer learning, knowledge sharing. And the fact that in Southern Africa, we now have an alliance makes it easier for us to engage with the other alliances within Africa. Andrew did state that whenever they are now having their meetings as Eastern African Alliance, they usually invite the West African Alliance as well as the Southern African Alliance now. So that gives us an opportunity to participate. The opportunities now that we are seeing through this is, as Southern Africa, is that as Southern Africa, I think we have high mitigation potential. And you can see this through our nature-based solutions. You can see this through renewable energy potential. So those are potential areas for us to generate emission reductions. Then there's also the potential in terms of when you look at the growing demand of high integrity credits, there's the potential that now as a region, we mobilize ourselves and generate these high integrity carbon credits for sale to would-be buyers, but also the aspect of sharing infrastructure, sharing knowledge. That is an opportunity that we are looking to utilize as a region. The regional collaboration itself is very important to us, so that as Thierry indicated, we are at various stages of development in our capacities as countries within the region. And therefore, the fact that we now have this alliance will enable that we raise the capacity of those countries that may be behind, but also enhance the capacities of those that are already running ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, all of you, for your input and your experience. I think that it really is the best space today to really see the perspective of the different focal points from the different regions and how it's really important to have those alliances and to have also those kind of events when we have the opportunity to really share our experience, our solutions, our tools, and also our vision. So thank you so much for accepting to be here and to talk about that. But before I let the public ask the questions, I will now invite again the Alliance coordinator to join the panel. So Ousmane, Andrew, and Thierry Vanou, please. Okay. So now, if you have any questions, remarks, recommendations, you are free to let us know so that we can, okay, let's go.
Yeah, hello, my name is Simon Pfluger from Climate and Company. I work on international carbon markets. I have a question, well, to the coordinators and maybe also others in the room, because my colleague Zubair from Tunisia, on the very last minute joined us, and when will there be a North African Carbon Market Alliance?
It was interesting one. The North African Carbon Market Alliance. All right, so my name is Bob Kazungu. I'm the Red Plus Focal Point for the Deputy Head of Forestry in Uganda. So it's sincerely a pleasure to be here. Alliance of the Forestry, the EAA Alliance, and appreciate quite a lot of work that Andrew is doing. And sometimes I say single-handedly. Along that line, I think, and we really appreciate the GIZ, the German government, for providing the support along the way, because it's a very important alliance. But I have one or two governance questions. One is, what would you have done better to the coordinators? 10 years, 7 years, because I didn't hear quite a lot of the other bad side of the game. But so what do you think? Not a new kid on the block, he's learning. And you know, Uganda kept watching many countries do Red Plus, for example. When we came on board, we learned from the failures of the other countries. We tore through with the first African country to the DC of RBP, resource-based payments in Africa. And that tells a bit of a story. How you come from behind and you get the other side. The other issue is about the structure of the alliance, generally speaking. It's also a governance question. How is it like? I mean, you have the coordinator and you have the, what else is happening to support you? I feel sometimes, you know, we're sorry that Andrew is breaking. He works so hard. I don't know, maybe there are other people I don't know who are other than coordinators in the country. A lot of work you're doing. I challenge the other partners who are coming on board. I think we need to strengthen the structure of the alliances so that you can do more. Than we have a lot of work to do as Africa. Right now we're struggling with the Article 6.2, 6.4, and how do we go about this, and you know, all this kind of stuff. But one key thing I wish to recommend and request is that the issue of carbon trade is becoming more political than even technical. And so, happy with the high level engagement that we need to engage our leadership in these countries, share the dynamics of the carbon market within Africa. I think if I was a donor, I would be very interested in supporting that path to make sure that the high level appreciate, because it's not about the money, we have integrity issues that we need to sort out. It's not just about how much comes in, but what's the quality of the credits and benefit sharing and all the safeguard issues that come along with it. And the issue of high integrity, the issue of safeguards. I think at the Alliance, please request for that support as well from so that we can sort this out. We have all these issues of the pricing of the credits, all these issues of volatile carbon markets playing within Article 6, within 8 months and getting to that. I think we shall have a middle ground at one point via VCM and corresponding adjustment conversations. But all these require, we need capacity as countries. Which I had the money, just give you money, so that you can help us to understand shift. This is very difficult things, but it seems simple but very difficult. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think there is 2 more questions.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Java Stepanovic with the Climate Action Data Trust. We're a nonprofit data infrastructure connecting carbon registries and work a lot on data standards and interoperability between different systems. I mean, it's kind of the question of this week, I think. And I was wondering if either from an alliance point of view or from a member country point of view, if you could share a little bit about the experiences or perhaps bottlenecks or good things that you have seen about working with the independent crediting programs, that operate in the VCM, but also now kind of move into CORSIA and 6.2 pathways. Are there, common challenges that you see emerging? Are there things that, you'd like to see a result? And basically, how are you thinking about the interplay between the VCM and Article 6? Yeah, thoughts on that would be appreciated.
Hello, I have a question coming to develop the site. A recent clash between ICAO and the decentralized registry, especially National Registry of Zimbabwe, it failed to reissue the credits that were cancelled in the gold standard registry and booked by, it was blocked by ICAO. The question goes out to Article 6 negotiators. The clarity in the negotiations on inter-registry rules, especially on what is acceptable or not acceptable. Because as I understand it, the national registries are sovereign rights placed under Article 6 to be established. So can an external body, assuming an external body, to sort of stop credits from being issued from a national registry? This has implications, and how can it be untangled? That's my first question. Second question relates to Article 6.4 itself as a mechanism. What happens if Article 6.4 implementation is delayed, or its operationalization is delayed because there are not enough methodologies available to cover all the NDC targeted sectors? Is there always have the standard Paris aligned methodology fall back to that earlier on?
Thank you. So I know there is only 2 other person that that wanted to ask questions. Okay, so we're just gonna let the panel reply to all the questions, and if we still have time, you can ask the other questions. Okay, so we're gonna go back to the first questions about the North African Carbon Market Alliance, and I know Usman has something to say about it. Yeah.
Thank you, Fanta. Regarding the first question about North African Alliance, it's our deepest wish. We really want to have North African Alliance so that we will cover all the region in Africa. But we have a bit of challenge regarding that issue because it's the creation of the West African Alliance. We've been interacting with Morocco, with Tunisia, to see how best we can partner and make sure that we have a North African Alliance created. But so far, the major political issue we have is they are mostly affiliated to the MENA region. And you have the MENA RCC, the MENA region, and they are more close to the MENA framework. Nevertheless, this past year, we have been interacting with most of the North African countries, and mainly Morocco and Tunisia, who really wants to partner, even if they are not part of, for example, the West African Alliance. We are exploring avenues to see how best we can collaborate. Last July, I was in Morocco to participate to an event organized by Casablanca Finance City, and where we did presented the West African Alliance and the activity. We agreed to see how best we can have Morocco as partner of West African Alliance, but still, politically, we have a bit of way to go. So far, that's what I can say, but I do know that it is a concern we have under the AU, because once we launch the African Union principle, the next step would be how we should structure the regional alliances. And the most important issue is North Africa. So we are discussing among us within the African Union to see how best we can organize the North African region. So far, that's what I can give you as. Yeah, but hopefully, Mauritania is geographically speaking in West Africa, and they are part of the West African Alliance, and also they belong to MENA. So they have a hybrid position. Okay. What could we do better? I have some input there. And I think after the end of your question, you touched upon a very important issue that we think that we could have done better. Right at the beginning, if we managed to have the high-level engagement of our political leaders, everything should have been implemented very smoothly. But unfortunately, the alliance have been initiated by technical experts, negotiators who are really focusing on the technical part of the aspect. And once we start implementing activities, we try to reach out to the key stakeholders of the carbon market ecosystem. We did realize that we want to have strong regulatory framework in the country, want to have transparency and everything. We need to have our policymakers on board. And it was a bit challenging to have them on board. That's why we decided to have what we call our West African Alliance ambassador. Among the member countries, we identify one champion who is really knowledgeable about carbon markets, who is interested about carbon markets, and we choose him as our ambassador so that he can speak to the other fellow ministers. That's where we started engaging very efficiently with them, organizing a first ministers roundtable in the margin of the COP and trying to see how best we can create a permanent framework, allow ministers to meet. And recently, in 2025, we managed to have the ministers roundtable and a declaration coming from. And this brought more endorsement of the alliance activity. We could have done it better at the beginning, and I think this is something that I wanted to raise. The second issue is a better donor coordination. If as alliance, we make sure that right at the beginning, we managed to have all partners, donors intervening in our region in terms of capacity building, in terms of support for our member countries around the table and see who can do what and how they can be complementary. I think it is something that would really help efficient allocation of resources in our region. And I think we are working on it to correct everything that we can correct on that regard. I think it's something that is really. Your third question regarding the framework, beyond the coordinator in the country and the focal point, what comes next? Because the demand is huge, and I do agree with you. That's why we have recently recruited local experts for our two clusters, Francophone and Anglophone, so that they can be closer to member countries and they can assist the focal point. That's one thing. The second level is we are trying to make sure that in each country we have a national platform where all key stakeholders of the carbon market ecosystem in the country, the private sector, the government, the local communities, the civil society, everyone is in this platform so that it will be our best interface to build capacity, to interact with the country, and to make sure that everyone is on the same page in the country when it comes to carbon markets. I think it is something that we're managing to the question related, your first question regarding the challenge of issuing high integrity, high quality, the safeguard prices. I think from Alliance perspective, we could support by ensuring better coordination among our member countries and try to facilitate peer-to-peer learning and also make sure that we have one market in the sub-region, so that the issue of pricing you mentioned, the issue of safeguards integrity will be really ensured because of this coordination. And why not to have a kind of assessment framework put in place by the Alliance? Can oversee, for example, if a project developer reach out to the Alliance, we can assess the project and make sure that this project is delivering a high integrity, good quality of credits. And we can also think about, I'm brainstorming a kind of label that the Alliance can give to this project so that we assume that this project is a project that is fully compliant to environmental integrity, is delivering good quality of credits. It's something that we are thinking about and maybe the framework. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we are a little bit behind the time. So if you are okay with that, we're just gonna go through the end of the answer and close. Yeah. So the other coordinator, I think you could also.
Okay, briefly, just to highlight, I've been given 1 minute. In line with a lot of the lessons for the alliances have come from West Africa. And we have experienced challenges. One, because of the kind of structure we have. It has been, let me put it this way. One of the biggest challenges we faced was the transition from coordinator. You know that you have a coordinator in place. They need to move, then a recruitment process has to start sometimes. The transition was not as seamless, which meant, and it brings me to the second point, that some of the key activities that were going on at the time did not happen. One of the key ones I can actually emphasize is the fact that we were actually going through the institutionalization. This was give or take three or so years ago when this transition started. But over time, impetus was lost, the structural changes, and we lost a bit of time. What this meant is that the opportunity to engage politically, for example, was lost temporarily, or it was slowed down, it was delayed, as opposed to being lost. And I think this is one of the things that we actually could have done better. Not just recognize, but leverage the role of political leaders in building carbon markets, and make sure that they are right on top of the agenda, because the political leaders definitely need to provide support, at least endorsement to work of the technical leads. We've had a very good experience of that recently. New country that joined us, Somalia, we had ministerial level endorsement, the membership. That is what we should have started with all across the board. The structure, just briefly, the Secretariat is where the coordination is done. There's a lot of work that goes on there, and it's run by, it's managed by the coordinator, and supported by country focal points, who are DNAs. Each country has about two average, two focal points, and a broader steering committee that includes technical advisors and technical supporters. We call it the technical advisory group now. They work together to support the alliance. I think I would ditto most of what Usman said. There's a lot more we could learn from, but I'll stop it at that.
Yeah, Thierry, maybe
Yeah.
just.
All right. Thank you very much. I will not go into the other issues. I'll go to a specific issue. I'm the coordinator for the Southern Africa Alliance, but I'm also from Zimbabwe. And there's a specific issue that came in terms of ICAO, and we also highlighted this at the Ambition Dialogue yesterday. We are in the early stages of implementation of Article 6 and the rules that we've crafted on the UNFCCC side are now interacting with the rules of the rest of the carbon market ecosystem. So you would understand that ICAO is also an organization, specialized UN agency on its own, separate from the UNFCCC, and has been crafting its own rules in terms of what is acceptable under the COSIA program. And as we interact, I think then the Zimbabwe credits come to spotlight, because it's the first attempt that has ever been done in terms of using a sovereign registry and then using the credits from that sovereign registry to be used for COSIA purposes or by the airlines purposes. And then in that interaction, there was then the discovery that there's a bit of a small misalignment in terms of, you have the UNFCCC encouraging sovereign registries, parties to come up with registries, and then ICAO also having a small rule that says, the carbon credit has to be retired on the platform from where it was generated. So if it was generated by gold standard and a gold standard program, it's supposed to be retired also, cancelled and retired on that particular same registry without moving anywhere. But the era in which we are in now, it's a bit different in that most countries are now treating these mitigation outcomes as sovereign assets. If you are being asked as a country to provide a legally binding authorization, a letter for a mitigation outcome, it means that you have committed the country in terms of the corresponding adjustment and the adjustment of a national greenhouse gas inventory, which in the end, if you do not meet your NDC targets or any other mitigation targets, will affect you eventually. And in some cases, might also affect you in terms of other programs that are coming up that require value chains to be clean and so forth. And if your companies, for example, want to also participate and export things to Europe. For example, CBAM is coming up with this carbon tax. It's already there. Your carbon credits can be used for that, but you need to have your carbon credits in your national trading emission system for you to then kind of operationalize it. But it's getting into the nitty-gritties and the technicalities of all this. We believe that we are in an era where we need cooperation and to talk to each other. And I think discussions are there in terms of what can be done around some of these issues. It's still early days. Let's see where things go. But what we think is, for example, we could have a protocol that can be used by the countries that want to use sovereign registries. ICAO itself could come up with a protocol or a procedure, a stringent procedure that they can then fulfill. If they fulfill that, then they become eligible and they can also use their own registries. From an alliance perspective, we are also encouraging our members to understand better the ICAO regulations for COSIA. And we took part in April, I think, part of a webinar organized by the East African Alliance, where we were together. Our members also participated there, and the ICAO rules, and one of the standards was there, also elaborating on these rules so that we know better. In the future, from a technical and expert perspective, we also see a future where there might be a decoupling of the issuance roles of standards and the registry roles of, where carbon credits can be issued directly into sovereign registries, since they are sovereign assets, and then from those sovereign registries, countries and parties can then make their decisions in terms of what is authorized, what is not authorized, and so forth and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all of you.
In under a minute, there was a question of the methodologies under the UNFCCC, the PACAM, the 6.4. I think that is something that is not within our ambit to deliberate on in terms of how soon for certain sectors or activities the UNFCCC would be able to approve methodologies. That is up to the UNFCCC. They are taking their time. They have done some approvals already. But Dr. Mvundika, who is a member of the supervisory body, maybe as he closes, could speak to some of those things. And then the issue of the registry, of course, as alliances, we continue to engage the standards, but beyond the standards, we are also engaging ICAO. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all those questions. Just to remind you, there is a lunch, so you will have also the experience, the opportunity to ask more questions. So we're now gonna close this session. Thank you for the questions, for the, sorry? Huh? Yeah, I will let Rita go on with the closing part. And thank you for all the panel. So a round of applause for the panelists.
Thank you so much, Fanta. And apologies that we've kept you a little longer than expected. But we're now wrapping up. So I'll kindly invite Dr. Alec Mvundika in just 2 minutes to wrap up the conversation today. And we will then continue it at the lunch break. Thank you so much for your patience. We are and apologies to those whose questions were not asked and answered, but we hope that we can keep the conversation going. Dr. Ali.
Thank you, Rita. I know I'm standing between your lunch, but I'll be quick. Excellencies, distinguished delegates and the colleagues, we have reached the conclusion of our truly historic convening today. I think this is the first time then that we have had 3 alliances convene in one room. Over the past few days, we have shifted from the narrative from talking about fragmented national pursuits to a powerful and coordinated continental strategy. And this really is very, very encouraging. We are no longer just planning, but we're actually actively underlining our frameworks to transition from just carbon readiness to full-scale transaction delivery. We are seeing countries in these regions now signing MOPAs to actually transact carbon credits. So from our gathering today, I've picked 3 takeaways. And one takeaway when I was jotting, actually, it came from the audience, from my brother from Uganda. The issue of integrity. I think integrity is non-negotiable. So guiding environmental integrity and ensuring strict accounting safeguards is a must. And so as countries in these regions, we have to apply corresponding adjustments in order to avoid double counting. That's one. The second aspect is harmonized infrastructure. I know there are some countries that have had registries in place or putting registries in place, but there are others that may have a lot of challenges. So we must move towards harmonizing regional registries, digital tracking infrastructure, as well as shared capacity building pools in order to overcome technical bottlenecks that has limited us in the past. That's the second takeaway. And then the third takeaway is the issue of pricing. I think as a region, we should move away from price takers to price setters. As Africa, we are immensely endowed with natural capital, spanning from forests up to agricultural landscapes, which really should entitle us to demand fair, transparent pricing. We must collectively ensure that communities protecting these ecosystems pocket the value of their stewardship. And so this is where the issue of benefit sharing plans come in. But it can't come in if you don't have frameworks or regulatory frameworks in place. So it's a must. Otherwise, if you don't have these in place, the communities will revert back to their old ways of doing things. They will start attacking the forest. So the benefits must actually accrue to the communities that are involved in these projects, particularly REDD+ projects. And then as I conclude, I want to pay growing tribute to the German government through GIZ. We heard from all the 3 strongmen from the 3 alliances that there was GIZ involvement in the establishment. So I think GIZ or the German people deserve a round of applause, colleagues. But GIZ as a donor can only do so much. And now my appeal is to policymakers. In order for us to really sustain these alliances, I think we must own them. We must not rely on outside partnership. So my plea here is to encourage, and I would have loved to hear from Usman and Andrew, how these 2 alliances have survived for 10 and 7 years. I didn't get the aspect of how you've survived in terms of funding. But my appeal to policymakers, those in government is, I think let's try to set aside some budget lines so that we can start contributing to these alliances, because then that will entail ownership, that will entail sustainability. Support, can be one of. GIZ will never be there for us. Yeah, it's good that they've gotten us started, but we need to sustain ourselves. And so with those very few remarks, I wish to thank GIZ once again, but for all of you, making time from your busy schedules. I know The SBs are quite busy, but for finding time to come and attend this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mvundika. Really appreciate the great roundup.
Sorry, I forgot before you give me,
Yes,
there was a
please.
question, since I'm an SB member, in terms of the methodologies, and I saw someone from the secretariat. Yes, we're actually fast-tracking those methodologies that are in high demand. The clean cooking is one methodology, that we should actually be approving when we meet next month. It's been a bottom-up, so over the Clean Cooking Alliance submitting a methodology called CLEAR. So what it is that we have to align it to adhere to Paris. Most of the methodologies are actually being adopted from the CDM, but it's just that they have to follow and align to the standards that have been developed, to adhere to Paris Agreement. So we are aware of the need for methodologies. So far, we've got 2 methodologies that have been approved, and we should be approving 2 more when we meet next month. Thank you. I mean, we can discuss, over lunch. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mvundika. I think we needed a lot more time.